Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting case that happened back in 2012 that involves a cylindrical shaped object appearing near someone's home in Virginia. A lot of UFO cases you hear about cylindrical shaped objects. It's not just saucers or orbs or there's all kinds triangles. I mean, there's all different shapes and sizes to these things. But I thought this one was really weird, and there's a lot to talk about here with this case. And actually, I found this case at the website of the National UFO Reporting Center, which is probably the best place where people go to, the biggest place where people go to file UFO sightings. Usually, I believe what happens is, people, who don't even have an interest in this, or maybe a casual interest in it, or no interest in it whatsoever, they'll have a sighting of a UFO or have some kind of a strange experience with a UFO, and then they'll go online at some point and they'll look for a place where they could file their report. And actually, if you do a search on this, the United States government actually sends people to this site. If you do a Google search on UFO report, where to report a UFO, this is going to pop up somewhere in Google. You're going to find this place. One of the places too nowadays is Enigma. Enigma Labs is collecting UFO reports, but this has been doing it for a long time. The National UFO Reporting Center. It's operated by one person and one person only, Peter Davenport. Most of the sightings are the United States and Canada, but there's actually stuff from all over the globe here. I highly recommend it because there's just so much stuff on here, just so much stuff. I mean, so many different reports. I mean, they have a data bank you could go through. You could do a search by date, like from this year, from last month. You could see what people were reporting from December, all the way back into the 70s. I mean, it's a great resource. That's for sure. And every month there's hundreds of sightings that get reported. There's an index by state and country, an index by the shape of the UFO. Like for instance, and I have talked about this before, but I just think it's something to point out, because if you're interested in UFOs, I mean, this is something you should be checking out on a regular basis, because there's a lot of sightings, a lot of great information. Some of them come with videos, some of them come with pictures, some of them come with drawings. Like I'm looking right now at the National UFO Reporting Center by shape. Some of them are unspecified. There's 6,341 unspecified reports changing. Some objects change shapes. There's 3,988 reports of changing shapes, objects that change their shape. Cigar shape, 3,756. Chevron shaped, 1,743. Circle, 14,377. Cone, 604. Cross, there's some crosses out there, 501. Cube, every now and then, not many, but there's not many cube sightings, but there's 37 listed here. Diamond shape, 2,118. Disc, that seems to be the biggie. That's 8,716. And fireballs, even bigger, that's 9,882. Egg shaped, 1,290. It's flash. Some things there's like a flash. There's 2,440 of those. Sometimes formation. There's a formation of objects. Formation sightings has 4,864. A light-shaped object, just a light in the sky, that's probably the biggest one here. 27,549. 5,925 orbs. Other is 10,083. Oval, 6,371. I mean, it goes on and on. Star-shaped, 184. Teardrop, 1,238. Triangle, 13,105. But the one I'm going to talk about today was a cylinder-shaped object, and on here there have been reported 2,487 cylinder-shaped UFOs since this site has been in operation. So I find that very interesting. And there's all different shapes and sizes, and sometimes a lot of reports you hear where there's changing shape as people are looking at them. I mean, it could go from a cylinder shape to a disc shape. It seems like they have the ability to change the way they look. And that's what stands out about the case that I want to talk about today. I was going through earlier today and yesterday. I've been going through different cases on here, and this one was one of the ones that stood out. There's actually a lot of them that stand out, and this is just one that I'm going to talk about. Again, if you ever have the time and you're interested, you got to check out the National UFO Reporting Center website. Of course, I will leave a link in the description so you could find it easily. But anyway, this was something that happened in 2012 in September, on September 29th of 2012. It wasn't reported to the National UFO Reporting Center until July of 2015. But I thought this was an interesting story, and it does come with a drawing that you could check out that the witness saw. He wasn't able to get a picture. It happened so fast this person was not able to get a picture. But he did create a drawing of it, and I'm going to talk about all of this here. Anyway, it says, at 6:50 a.m. on September 29th of 2012, I had just walked from the bathroom of our single-floor house and glanced out the window on the west side of the building. What I saw still haunts me to this day. Less than 150 feet away, hovering near the top of the neighbor's backyard tree, which towers to 50 to 65 feet in height, was an object that I had never before seen. My mind seemed to be scrambled for a millisecond in an effort to make the object identifiable. I saw the ghosts of a tail section and large rotor blades on the top, but those projections quickly vanished. There were lights toward the front, asymmetrically placed on a bulkhead of sorts, and those lights were not blinking or moving. The colors were red, green, blue, and a singular white light. The body of this craft at first appeared to follow in a general way the body of a military helicopter, with flat sides that rolled over the top with a similar roll on the bottom. The exterior was glassy smooth and the color was a bluish gray, what I first called periwinkle, certainly not exactly what I intended to suggest. It was a periwinkle blue-gray, but a much darker value than the color that most people understand to be periwinkle. I am not an illustrator, and so my illustration does not depict the color correctly. Now, before we go on, I just want to, for the people who aren't seeing this, he describes this in detail, but I am showing the image here for people who are watching the video version. But he does, describe what happens here. He says, in total silence, as if acknowledging that I had spotted it, the craft quickly moved toward my house and passed directly overhead the window from which I was observing. From the first moment of its departure, the object appeared to change its shape into a cylindrical oil drum with two rounded ends, though the leading end was notched out from about halfway up the cylinder to the top. That notch moved back perhaps 4 or 5 feet and then stopped at a vertical bulkhead, upon which the lights were set in recessed openings. I did not see any pilots. So basically, you see what this object. At first, he was thinking it was a helicopter. He saw the ghost of a blade on the top of it and a tail end. But then that just disappeared quickly. And right when he looked at this thing, that stuff was like a projection. Like it really was, like it was making itself look like that, but it really wasn't. That's not what it looked like. And then it took on its true form, which is like a tube with some opening cut out, something like a cockpit at one end of it, and it took off really fast. The whole sighting only lasted for 2 seconds. Now, he says this. Now, the interesting thing is that I continued seeing this craft for several hours as though it had been embedded in my mind. Also, there seemed to be a kind of transparent hatch cover that covered the notched out front section of the craft, which I never saw with my eyes, but it became real and seeable in my memory image as it repeatedly slid open and closed for a very long time. That action was very fast, and it seemed that it was done so many times in order that I understand its importance. If it actually had any importance, I have failed to realize that. So basically, he sees this object. At first, it has a tail end and a propeller on the top like a helicopter, but that was just a projection, like it was fake. And then that disappeared quickly, and then he just saw the cylinder shape with this cockpit area in the front, and it disappeared really quickly. But then he couldn't get the image out of his head all day, which I find really strange. He kept on seeing this, and in his mind's eye, he was seeing like a transparent glass shutter opening and closing quickly on that end section that he saw with the cockpit area, which I find very, very strange. This whole case is very strange, and there's a lot of questions I have. Anyway, he continues here. He says, the entire episode must have taken place in about 2 seconds, which is a very long time when you are seeing something so far removed from normal experiences. That morning, I drew some rough sketches of the craft and guessed at measurements and distances, etc., and really goofed on much of that. It was after I got out a tape measure and started taking actual measurements that I saw how erroneous my first guesses had been. Now much of that has been corrected, though I still need to figure the height of the roof of the house next door without arousing too much suspicion. My emotional reaction to the sighting, I felt as though there was a strange violation of my privacy. It was as though I felt that I was being watched, and the moment that I discovered that, they fled the scene very rapidly. So overall, I had an ominous feeling, a feeling that is related to paranoia. So he had a very weird feeling like he was, that somebody's watching him. Somebody's watching you without your permission. Anyway, he says, the following morning, September 30th, 2012, I heard the loud thumps of a helicopter approaching my house, so I grabbed my camera and ran outdoors. The Army helicopter crossed my front yard at an aerial height of no more than 70 feet, and I was able to get 2 photos of that black machine. How very curious that such a visit would take place so soon after my sighting. We rarely see helicopters in this area aside from the occasional EMT rescue copter. So I find that interesting too. Now, apparently this guy didn't tell anybody about this thing, but yet the next day there's an Army helicopter showing up, hovering right above his house, which he says never happens. And he continues here. He says, 11 months later, a photograph taken in Brazil was revealed in Filer's Files, a web newsletter about UFOs. The object in the photograph was almost identical to the object that I saw. Since then, another similar object was photographed in Pikesville, Maryland, and shared on the web via UFO sightings hotspots. Now, I just want to stop there. Now, I didn't find the Pikesville, Maryland picture, but I did search the web, and I was able to find what he was talking about, this photograph taken from Brazil, and that appeared in Filer's Files on that's a different website here. It has a lot of different UFO cases from all over the world, and this is the picture we're looking at right now. This was an actual picture taken at 11:30 a.m. over Curitiba, Brazil, on August 30th, 2013. So this was around the same time that he actually saw his. It happened a year later, 11 months later, actually. The Brazil case happened 11 months later in 2013. And his case happened in 2012 in September. So, and this picture here, it's pretty much like the drawing. You can see that it's like a tube-shaped object. It looks like there's like a part that's carved out on one end of it. It looks like where it could be a cockpit. But there's a lot of interesting aspects to this case. Now, the interesting part to me is that when he looks out, he sees the ghosts, he says, of a tail section and large rotor blades at the top. And then that quickly just vanishes. They vanish. These ghosts of this rotor blade on the top and this tail section at the end vanish. And then the thing just takes off. No sound whatsoever. Charging right toward him, right over his house. And it's gone. The whole thing takes place in 2 seconds. He sees it. The thing right when he sees it, he sees these ghosts of a blade on the top and a rotor section at the end. And then that stuff disappears, and this silent cylinder object disappears over his house. He says those projections quickly vanished. So, I mean, what this tells you is that these beings are actually trying to, these are like imposter helicopters that they're trying to make it look like. If you look at this, he looked at it, he thought it was looking at a helicopter at first, but it wasn't. Of course, the ghost projections disappeared, and then you saw the real deal, and it was just a cylinder, no sound at all, and it took off. When it realized, according to him, it seemed like it realized he saw it, and then it took off. And then the next day, the Army helicopter shows up. A black helicopter's flying out over his house. Now, what's going on here? Let's really think about this. For one thing, how is the military finding out about this the next day without anyone saying, or maybe somebody else reported it? Who knows? Maybe that's what happened. Maybe somebody else contacted the Army or the Air Force or whoever and told them about this, and they sent out a helicopter the next day to check it out. Maybe somebody else saw this and made a phone call that he doesn't know about. Maybe there was somebody else who saw it. But what if there wasn't anyone else who saw it? How did they know? How did anyone in the military know the next day to go hovering around there looking for that thing? What is going on here? Like, do they? I mean, this goes back to the in a lot of cattle mutilation cases. In a lot of those cases, before the mutilations happen and after they happen, helicopters have been reported in the areas. Black helicopters, unmarked helicopters, flying around. Then the next day, a cow is mutilated, and the day after that, there's another helicopter showing up. Maybe they're not our Army helicopters or Air Force helicopters at all. Maybe what it is the extraterrestrials making us think that that's what we're seeing. Maybe they're mimicking everything. Maybe that's all. It's a big trick on our eyes somehow, or in our minds, whatever they're doing. I think they have the ability, obviously. That's what it's starting to seem like. It seems obvious in a lot of different cases that they can make us see things that make us see their craft in a different way than what the reality is. I mean, you look at, there was a case that Gary Nolan was talking about that happened in France, where people were looking at some object that was hovering above their car, and when they took a picture of it, it came out to look like some kind of a star, like a star-shaped object. That was not what they saw with their eyes, but when the image that they took with their cell phone, it looks something completely different than what they experienced. I don't know what's going on, but it's really weird. See, this is, I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, is the government involved with this somehow? I mean, this is why disclosure is so important as far as I'm concerned, because you have stories like this. I mean, why should we live in this mystery like this? Why are we kept in the dark by military officials with regard to this phenomenon? I mean, this person here, obviously it affected him strongly. He was thinking about it for 3 years before he finally sent out his report to the National UFO Reporting Center. Obviously, it had an effect on him. It actually did have some kind of a psychological effect on him. He couldn't get the image out of his head for hours after he saw it. And you wonder then the next day an Army helicopter shows up, and then someone in the Air Force will step up to a podium and say, "Oh, there's nothing to UFOs. We don't have any. There's no extraterrestrials. Nothing like that." But yet, it's like the rest of us are left in the dark. We hear stuff like this, but because there's no disclosure, there's no truth told by the officials in charge. We're left to wonder. We're left to be paranoid. This guy says he felt paranoia because of this situation. I don't see how anybody would feel paranoid after something like this. So that's why it's important that, I really believe it's very important that we get disclosure because of things like this, because this leaves people in the lurch. It's really a shame when you really think about it. Again, this guy was feeling paranoid. I mean, if the truth would be told, right, then say something like this happens and you contact your local Air Force base and you say, hey, there was something out in front of hovering out right over the neighbor's tree. It was a giant cylinder. It made no sound. This is what it looked like. What do you have to say about this? If you would give you an answer like, well, it's probably extraterrestrial, I wouldn't worry about it too much, as there's nothing we could really do about it. That would be an appropriate answer. That's the kind of answers that we should be getting, but we don't get them. Instead, you get you're afraid to say anything because people will think you're crazy, right? You can't say anything. You report it under an anonymous name on the National UFO Reporting Center. I mean, this guy didn't leave his name. I mean, Peter Davenport, I'm sure, knows who this person is, and he talked to him, and he talks to a lot of the people. He finds cases that are very interesting, and the more interesting the case, he'll talk to the people. He'll get a feeling for what kind of person this reporter is, and take it from there. But I mean, who wants to put their name out there and then get ridiculed? Say, oh yeah, he saw some cylinder over there. And everybody else, the whole government tells us that's all crazy, so he must be crazy. See, that's how it is. That's not how it should be, though. But somehow or some way, it seems like the military did find out about this object, and it makes you wonder. Okay, maybe was the object the day before some secret project? Some secret machine that was developed by the military industrial complex, and they're just testing it out. Was that what it was? You wonder. I don't think it is, right? I think it was probably extraterrestrial, but it could have been. You have to wonder. You don't have any answers. And what was it doing there? If it was a military experiment, why was it hovering over a neighborhood like this with a bunch of civilians? I mean, why would it be doing that? To see if they can get away with it? If it was extraterrestrial, okay, what was it doing there? What was it? Checking out? Was it returning someone they just abducted, or were they just planning to abduct somebody, or were they looking for new people to abduct? I mean, what's it all about? It'd be nice to get some straight answers from the people we put in charge, but it doesn't seem like we're going to ever get that anytime soon. But we are going to be 2024. I think we're going to pick things up right where we left off. There was a story just today in Axios that says here, the headline reads, House members to receive classified UFO briefing. And it says here, Axios has learned that members of the House Oversight Committee will receive a classified briefing on unidentified anomalous phenomena. And it says the members-only briefing will be held in the Office of House Security, according to a notice obtained by Axios. The briefing is being provided by the Office of Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, the notice said. And it says here, a bipartisan group of Oversight Committee members led by Representative Tim Burchett sent a letter to the Intel Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim in August requesting more details about UFOs, including any programs to reverse engineer them or retrieve crashed UFOs. And it says here the letter was in response to testimony the previous month from former intelligence official David Grush, who we all know, claimed that the government was in possession of non-human biologics from a recovered UFO, along with recovered UFOs, and they are reverse engineering them. And it talks here about the Congressional UAP Caucus, which consists of Burchett and Representatives Jarrett Moskowitz, Anna Paulina Luna, Nancy Mace, Eric Burleson, and Andy Ogles. So it looks like we're there. Some of these House members are going to get this secret meeting. They're going to receive a classified UAP briefing from the Intel Committee. The Intel Community Inspector General, which is very interesting because is he going to tell them anything this time? Now, last time apparently they had a meeting and they were told nothing. This time, are they going to learn the truth? And then I guess the question becomes, if they are told the truth, are they going to relay that information to the public? I would say probably not. But it's going to be interesting to see their reactions after that meeting. How are they going to come out? Like, say they're told some extremely interesting information, mind-blowing information about UFOs. Say they're told the reality of the situation. Well, say somehow the Inspector General lays it all out on the table for them and says, yep, it's true, all of it. There's aliens from outer space coming here. We're recovering their aircraft when they crash, and we're reverse engineering them. Here's some pictums of the bodies that we have. You want to hear? We'll check out this video. You can see some crash sites where they recovered bodies. What if something like that were to happen in this closed meeting, and then these dumbstruck Congress people come traipsing out, and there's cameras there waiting for them? How are they going to respond? Well, of course, it'll probably be against the law. I'm assuming that all of this stuff is obviously considered. It's top secret for national security reasons, and so they won't be able to say anything. But boy, they're going to want to. If they are told the truth, they are going to want to tell the world what they just found out. But I think what would probably happen is after this hearing, I would imagine these people are either going to keep fighting for disclosure, or maybe they're going to be told something and they're going to start acting like everyone in the Air Force has been acting for decades. Like maybe they'll be told something that the same kind of information that apparently was told to Jimmy Carter back in 1977 when he was getting briefed on UFOs, and it caused him to cry. I mean, maybe the truth is just too much for some people, and they'll just want to clam up and not say a word about it from there on out. Or maybe some of them will come out and say, you know what, I think the public could handle this. It's the truth anyway, so they need to know. And they'll keep moving forward and try to make things happen in the future as we move forward, and maybe continue the disclosure push for the rest of this year. And maybe we will get somewhere. Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, Congress basically is our only hope to get disclosure to happen. I mean, whistleblowers. I'm sure there's going to be some more whistleblowers stepping forward this year. Some people are probably going to become some household names, just like David Grush. I mean, a lot of people, even outside of the UFO community, know who David Grush is now. But but a lot of people don't. But though, I mean, within the UFO community, David Grush most certainly has become a household name, and he's become a big name in mainstream news outlets at this point. He's been talked about a lot, so people know who he is, know that he's a whistleblower, know what his claims are, and right now all they could do is either take it or leave it. But once we get more people like Grush stepping up, telling similar or even more mind-blowing, providing even similar or more mind-blowing information, then we'll see what happens then. We need to have more whistleblowers for sure. That's no question about it. And I think in 2024 we're gonna see that. We are gonna see that. And if some of them are privy to actual documentation, if they were to present that to the world, actual documentation that shows what's been going on behind the scenes, actual videos, a leak maybe similar to the leaks that we saw in 2017, the Pentagon UFO leaks, maybe, but this time that show beings inside craft flying around, something like that. That's what we need to happen. We need stuff like that to come out. We need more. We need better. We need actual images of the bodies that are found at some of these sites. We need images of the crashed craft. We need video of them working on it behind the scenes. If we can get something like that, that would end this whole cover up, and we can move on with life. Anyway, it's going to be an exciting year, I'm sure. Okay, and now moving on, I want to talk about the most recent poll that I conducted on Spotify. It was for the episode Secret UFO Control Group's Year-End Report. I asked this question: is the Secret UFO Control Group concerned that they will be exposed in the near future? I've received 73 votes so far for this poll. 27 people, or 37%, say no, too much power. Yes, so a lot of them think that there's too much power there. While 46 people, or 63%, say yes, it's slipping away. I would have to say that there has to be some concern among the secret control group about what's going on here. I mean, there's probably these people who are at the top of this chain, on the top of this empire that they've built over decades, this secrecy empire. There has to be all kinds of scenarios playing out in their minds as to what's going to happen once the truth comes out. I would have to imagine they have to be concerned if their names get made public and we find out that they've been responsible, some of them, for who knows, some of these people might have been part of the secret control group for 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, those people are the ones who are probably really thinking about this right now. The ones who, a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions for them, and they're probably concerned that their names might get brought out at some point, and who knows. At the same time, though, some of them might feel arrogant about their position and think that there's nothing possible could happen to them because there's just too much power backing them up. They got the might of the military. They got they have the Joint Chiefs of Staff most assuredly saying that this is a national security issue and needed to remain top secret for decades. They might not care. Who knows what their reasoning is at this point? I think it's more personal. I don't think that they're concerned about the reaction of the world. I think it's more about how people are going to view them and the idea that the public has been getting lied to for decades and decades and decades. I think that's the concern. I think it's about their own personal how it's going to affect them personally. So I don't think they're concerned about how disclosure is going to, what kind of effect it will have on the mentality of the world. I don't think that's their biggest concern. They probably have some concerns with that, but their biggest concern is how people are going to view them, and that's what they're concerned about. They don't want their names to be brought out there in public, and they don't want their organization to be revealed. I just don't think they do. I think they wanted to make it seem like it never existed. That's what they want. They want that more than anything. But I don't see how it's coming out. We already know there's whistleblowers stepping up, and even beyond that. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for decades. Researchers have dug up so much information. There's been so many people who have leaked information long before David Grush. So I think that probably I would go with the yeses on this one, the majority. I say yes, it's slipping away, and I think that some of them are definitely concerned about it. There's probably a handful who are not, but I would say most of them are most certainly concerned with it. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.